Hey, how's everyone doing today? The other day I was having a conversation with my buddy, and we were discussing, what do you think is the greatest invention ever? And he said, well, what about the airplane? I went, man, the airplane's pretty cool, but you could really take a boat or even walk to Michigan, so not the greatest invention. And they said, well, what about the telephone? Again, telephone is a great invention, but I would say it's almost done more harm than good. It wasn't until the telephone was invented that we got telemarketers, so that's out. And they said the internet. I'm like, man, you might have me there. But I think I have something that has even better, far more practical applications. And I would say the greatest ever invention is duct tape. Duct tape has infinite possibilities and practical applications. So, why was duct tape even invented? Well, according to mentalfloss.com, this is a website that I like to go to that just has random stuff and fun facts. Duct tape was invented for the soldiers in World War II. There was a lady named Vesta Stout who then wrote wrote a normal message via paper to President Roosevelt. And she said, hey, my son came back and he was injured, and he was telling me why he was injured. He said that their ammunition was shipped to them in cardboard boxes, kind of similar to the way you get crayons, and held together with this really cheap paper kind of tape. And so when the box would get wet, it'd fall apart. When they tried to open it, they couldn't open it because it would break on them. And so she said, something needs to be done. These need to be waterproof. They need to be durable. And so President Roosevelt called Johnson & Johnson and said, make something for us. And they created duct tape. And then we won the war. So just saying that we won World War II because of duct tape, I'm not really saying that, but I'm not saying that we didn't win the war because of duct tape. And so we all kind of thought that duct tape was, D-U-C-T tape, ductwork tape. It actually started out as duct tape, D-U-C-K tape, because it could repel water like a duck's feathers could. It wasn't until after the war, when this was readily available to us all, that we started using it for duct, D-U-C-T tape. But we'll find that now, the Berkeley Institute did a lot of research and said, you really shouldn't even be using duct tape for duct work because it kind of falls apart over time. They've since created a lot of things that work well for duct work. But it's still a great tool and plenty of great applications. But if you use it, it is actually kind of against code violations in most states. So duct tape does have a lot of practical uses. We just won't use it so much for our duct work anymore. It worked back then, but we got new things for it. The show Mythbusters took a lot of stories about duct tape and created myths for it. A lot of people said, hey, I heard this myth, I heard this myth. They went through and proved a bunch of things actually true. They were able to lift a 5,000-pound car using duct tape like it was a chain, using duct tape as a chain. They were able to construct a cannon that fired a cannonball and not totally fall apart. I don't think they could use it a second time, but it was still pretty sturdy. They were able to construct an entire boat in which a human went over a lake and did not drown. And then in the same episode, they were able to make a bridge to go over that same lake in which a human crossed and it didn't fall apart on them. As well, they went and had this story where a man in Alaska was trapped because a bear tore through the fuselage of his airplane and he would have died from the freezing cold. He repaired it with duct tape, and they proved that indeed that story could be true. And so duct tape is really an awesome thing. In another episode, the second 1-hour episode of Mythbusters, since so many people love the stories about duct tape, they had a second episode all based on what would you do if you're on a stranded desert island. What should you bring? A knife? No, bring duct tape with you. In this episode, they were able to build a distress signal, make fire, catch food, make clothing, and build a shelter. So, duct tape, what can it do? As a firefighter and a hazmat technician, when we go on scenes as a hazmat person, I actually will, we tape up ourselves with duct tape to prevent us from having to breathe in the outside elements. And as well, we have really poor dexterity with our gloves. And so we will use duct tape on a stick to pick things up. So duct tape, lots of practical uses even in my job. The Department of Homeland Security, after 9/11, recommended, hey, go buy a bunch of duct tape because if there's an airborne attack, you could just simply seal off your house and the ductwork with duct tape. And so, even Homeland Security says this stuff is awesome. I've gone through a lot of like funny, silly, impractical things that truly are practical, but duct tape has also been used to save lives. Back in Vietnam, when they started running out of the ability to stop bleeding and stop sucking chest wounds, this all applies to you and EMS, sucking chest wounds, when we have a hole inside of the outside and we start sucking the air into the pleural cavity of our lungs, they were packaging or bandaging it up so they could not breathe air from the outside, and it kept them from suffocating. And I'm sure all of you have heard the phrase, Houston, we have a problem. You know how they fix that problem? You guessed it, duct tape. There was an explosion on Apollo 13, and it was going to cause these guys to suffocate because there was a hole basically in their cabin, and they would have died. They fixed it with duct tape and cardboard and actually saved their lives, and were able to land safely and create an awesome movie. And so, I would say, what can't duct tape do? Sure, the internet's great, but really the only thing we use it for is Netflix and watching Breaking Bad episodes. And that is why I think that duct tape is the absolute greatest invention in the world. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir, you.
Hey, were there any Mythbusters where duct tape was proven, like the myth was busted?
Of the 60 myths that they had, there was only one that was disproven, and someone wrote in and said, hey, can it stop a car? If it were like a runaway car, could it stop? And so they created a duct tape net, and at 60 miles an hour, it failed. I just think they didn't use enough duct tape, so. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank y'all so much. Have a good day.